And we continue on with the Stop Socialism Express. Kevin Miller in the morning from the Gem State here in Idaho. Kevin Miller with you, and our great friend Michael Harrison joining us from Talkers, Talkers.com, Talkers Magazine. Man that has seen so many talk show hosts come and go and is always the most ardent defender of our great craft. Good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you? Happy daylight savings time to you, Kevin.
Indeed. It's always a blessing to be with you. Michael, we take a look at the state of the media today. Obviously, talk radio is at the forefront, and we've asked you this before, but are we seeing the golden years in talk radio that rivals what we saw in '94?
Well, we always look back at the past, and the past always seems golden. It's that way not just in radio, it's that way in television and movies and politics and our own lives. We glorify the past. But it seems to me that radio, and particularly talk radio, which is the most important kind of radio we have, it certainly is going forward. I think it's had a lot of golden ages. So I think we're in a new golden age. I think that during my career, I've seen about 3 or 4 of them, and I know you've seen a couple. And I think that, as Sean Hannity says, the best is yet to come. I think that talk radio plays a very big role in the current popular culture scene, from politics to the arts, and I think it's very much alive.
I'm with you on that. The reason why I say back to '94, that seems to be the rise of the Republican Congress. People were doing rush parties and that sort of thing, and now we kind of see that with Sean Hannity, who. Television, radio, digital, wherever. I mean, heck, he's in Vietnam, for gosh sakes. I don't think we've ever had a media entity, television, radio, whatever, plugged in as much as Sean is.
Well, Sean has definitely become a historic figure in the broadcasting field. You're absolutely right. There's never been, in radio, anybody that close to a president of the United States where people actually believe he is an influencer, a direct influencer in setting policy. We've seen a couple of examples of it, so this is not speculation. It's true. Sean is very influential. So, as we track these things, one of the things we track at Talkers is the relative influence that talk show hosts have on public policy and on the culture. Sean Hannity is unprecedented. It's a pretty amazing time for him. And as a result, he's elevated the importance of talk radio, and not just, and talk media, of course, because he's on television as well, and not just in terms of his particular brand of politics, but in general, all points of view. The platform is out there as a major player in the news. Radio is a newsmaker. People like Hannity are newsmakers. You're a newsmaker in the community that you serve, as opposed to just being some type of a media sideshow or, frivolous entertainment.
Indeed. Michael Harrison joining us, Talkers.com. What is your affinity for talk radio? Why do you continue to cover it, continue to be quoted in all the big papers, continue to be perhaps its alter ego?
Well, I know a lot about it, so the papers come to me because I have answers and insights that perhaps reporters that don't spend as much time with it have, and they've come to count on me because they know that even though I am a supporter of talk radio, I don't lie for talk radio, and I never say anything that I don't believe. So I have credibility in that regard. But why do I personally like it? Because it's vital. It's every day. It reflects. It's an art form that it's performance art. It's involved in reality and plays a role in reality, and it's storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most interesting aspects of the human experience, to tell stories and to listen to stories. And talk radio is a great storytelling medium. So I have found radio in general, the whole concept of audio communication, from the mouth to the ear, right into the brain, no distractions, the television and movies have, although I love them as well. And I think that radio will always be important. And beyond that, I don't know. I just like it.
The power of the spoken word.
Yeah, the power of the spoken word is not to be denied. It's very intrinsic to what we are. We human beings are talkers. I mean, it's kind of apt that I publish a magazine called Talkers, because I've always been a talker myself. I've always liked to be around people that were talkers. Some of my idols in history, in terms of people I've studied and gravitated toward, were excellent orators. All of the great movements in history coalesce around great speakers who inspired people to rise up and have courage, or to see the light when it was swampy, if you'll use that expression. So no, that's where the action is. So I mean, you must feel that way. Look at you. You've devoted your life to being a talker.
Indeed, it is certainly something that we all hold true to our hearts and we love. And Michael Harrison, again, as the keeper of the clock, you've seen so many people come and go, but let's talk a little bit about, and we love Sean on. We have Sean on here, but many people don't get a chance to know Sean as you have, as I've met him a few times. But you remember Sean Hannity 20, 30 years ago when he was, at WGST in Atlanta. And can you comment just on how people have matured in the business, how the business has changed?
Well, I'll tell you, Sean Hannity, I knew him before that. I knew him when he was in Huntsville. And he was an up-and-comer, very, very self-confident. He called me up on the phone and he told me, I'm going to be a big-time broadcaster. You should follow my career. And I roll my eyes when I hear that. But I pay attention. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on something. You don't want to be one of those record companies that turned down the Beatles when you had an opportunity to hear their demo tape. So even though most people who claim they're going to do big things are just talking through their hats, I was very interested in Hannity, and I had the good fortune of being one of his early advisors. I was sort of a mentor to him, and followed his career. I'm not quite sure what your question is. How have I seen changes in radio over the years that I've watched Hannity rise?
We've all matured, and you go from Sean at WVNN in Huntsville, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people call you up. I've seen it in action when we've been at conventions, when people come up to you and say, hey, I'm going to be the next big thing, but they don't understand the relationships. They don't understand the teamwork. Some people think you can just get on the radio with no prep, no knowledge, no respect for the community that you serve and succeed, and yet you have others like Sean, like Rush and others that have succeeded. And, over the years, Michael, we've all gotten miles on the odometer, and I just wondered if you had just noticed anything as we've all matured in the business under your guidance.
I think that there has been a great maturation, including yours truly. I mean, everybody listening to this broadcast, we all share one thing in common. We're all older at this moment than we were yesterday and 10 years ago. We're all getting older. So this is an experience that, I'm talking to everybody about. So yes, there is a constant maturation process going on in life, let alone in this radio business, where there are a lot of talents that have been around a long time. There are some new ones coming up, and that's always interesting. I'm not going to start getting into names, but yes, there are new young talents coming up. However, Kevin, it's very important to point out that in the field of talk radio, age and experience count for a lot. It's not just, hey, he or she is cute, or, oh, they're snarky, oh, they're clever. When you're on the radio for several hours every day talking about life and death issues, because that's really what it comes down to, for hours every day, 5 days, 6 days, a week, you'd better have life experience, and the well has to be pretty deep, because it doesn't take long before people will realize you'll be exposed as either being a kid or really not understanding things, or not understanding references, or not necessarily having a knowledge of history. Having a knowledge of history is so important to being able to talk about where things are at and where they're going. I mean, we have members of Congress right now that you can tell they don't have a knowledge of history. And it exposes them as, maybe having nice ideals, but not being grounded in reality. So maturity is a very important part of the talk radio situation. A lot of people think they could be the next big thing because, their relatives are impressed with them, or they're loud, they're loud mouths at the bar, on the stool, talking to their buddies. But I consider most of them to be like people who can sing in the shower, suddenly thinking they're the new, Frank Sinatra. It's not that easy. There's a difference between, being a a barroom bloviator and somebody who can get on the radio and really slice and dice the issues in a way that makes sense to people.
Our great friend Michael Harrison joining us, talkers.com. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. We're over 2 years into the Trump presidency. How has he changed the media dynamic?
Oh, my gosh, he's changed it more than anybody's changed it in my lifetime. He has created a vitality in the media that's unprecedented. Of course, he's also the hottest topic, the hottest singular subject that I can remember. He is a superstar in terms of conversation, in terms of what people talk about. Again, more so than I have ever seen. I mean, we've seen big things in modern history. You know, in the last 50 years, there have been big stars. There have, John F. Kennedy was huge. Every president gets a lot of conversation, but Trump is just a game changer. He's also, with his war against the media, he has brought attention to the state of journalism that even people who are his detractor have had to do a lot of self-analysis as to how they operate their platforms, how they operate their newspapers, how they operate their television operations, their news operations. And I think that in the end, when the Trump era is over, there's a very good chance that journalism will be forced into a higher level of responsibility than it is at the moment, and that it has been for a number of years. That's, I think, going to be his major contribution.
How do you see the next couple of years before the great battle for re-election in media in general?
Oh, before? The great battle for re-election. I thought we're in it right now. First of all, we're never out of campaigning. Have you noticed that in your lifetime? There used to be periods of grace where it was impolite. It was considered not good behavior, not good form to be campaigning early in an incumbent's term. But now it's 24/7, 365 every day, every decade. The campaign is always on. So we're in it now. We are in the 2020 election. We were in the 2020 election immediately after the 2016 election, but now it's in full swing. I mean, you're going to hear probably a candidacy announcement from Joe Biden soon, and that's going to coalesce the whole Democrat side of things. We're there. How will it play out? I think it's going to be one of the most, I guess, for lack of a better word, interesting periods in conversation, in political discussion that we've ever seen. It's going to be, as they say every cycle, the most important election of your lifetime. I love that phrase because it's nonsense. They say that about just like every storm now is the storm of the century. Every election is the most important of your lifetime. And in a way, it's true because it is the election that's going to determine not only the present, but the future. So, hang on. It's going to be a wild ride.
Michael, we always appreciate you. We always want to thank you for your support of this program throughout the years. And always, again, we don't say this enough, how much we appreciate you being the champion of talk radio, sir.
Well, I appreciate your saying that. It's with guys like you out there, it makes it easy for me. It's my pleasure. You keep doing a great job, Kevin, and I wish you and everybody at the station and all of your listeners the best.
Thank you, Michael. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Michael Harrison joining us from Talkers.com. A little look at the media and the rise of Sean Hannity, who you can catch weekday afternoons 3 to 6 right here. And, boy, you talk about a locked and loaded show. We've got the millennials, the Gen Zers talking about socialism. And, again, that's why we have declared for the past couple months the Stop Socialism Express begins right here. And Ocasio-Cortez calls FDR a racist. She says that the big businesses now control the government. She might not be wrong on that one. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the issue that is troubling the most is the free lunch. Everybody wants the free lunch. Nobody wants to earn the free lunch. And we'll address that next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Enabling anti-Semitism in their party is something we watch them struggle with, but something that's very dangerous for the country. So I'm hopeful that they will be able to stand up and do the right thing on this.
I am curious. There was a bit of criticism. Politico noted their Republican sources were quite peeved at Cheney, referring to you, to say the least. The thinking among most top Republicans is this: when you're part of a leadership team, you stick together, period. Criticism being, since you're a member of leadership, that you should have spoken with one voice.
Well, look, I think that, you know how the Hill works. There are always those anonymous sources who are out there sniping. But I think the important thing for us to be focused on and to remember, the Democrats have been in charge now for about 2.5 months in the House. And in that time, they've become the party of anti-Semitism, the party of infanticide, the party of socialism. They've passed legislation that's violated the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. It's really time for the Democrats, the leadership in that party, to stop it, to stand up, and to act worthy, frankly, of the trust the American people have placed in them.
There we have it, Liz Cheney on Meet the Depressed. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. And she's right about that when you take a look at what the Democratic Party has become. And you have many people in the state of Idaho saying we need more Democrats here for what? An Ocasio-Cortez? We can have Bernie Sanders or what have you. Really, what has the Democratic Party become? Think about that at 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I was looking at something over the weekend, and I posted this on the Kevin Miller Show Facebook page, and it happened late Friday afternoon. And we actually did a Miller Minute on this, where we have this issue involving illegals and whether or not illegal aliens, illegal immigrants should vote, like in elections. Now, according to the Constitution, you have to be a citizen of the United States to vote. But House Democrats voted Friday to defend localities that allow illegal immigrants to vote in their elections, turning back a GOP effort to detour that process. Now, how in the world can that happen when you're thinking about this? How in the world can you let people come into this country illegally, get benefits, and then vote? This from the Washington Times. The vote marks a stunning reversal from just 6 months ago when the chamber, then under GOP control, voted to decry illegal immigrant voting. This is what the Democrats stand for. This is what they're about. They want the illegals to come in because what are they going to do? Vote Democratic. They're going to vote for the people that will continue to give them government services. And the scary part about this is we have people in America today, young people, old people, whatever people, because if we don't identify you, it doesn't work anymore. We just honed into identity politics that want the government to give them something. We'll talk about that next. But first, traffic and weather together.
7's Larry Gebbert.
Thank you, Larry. So the House passes this measure to allow illegal aliens, illegal immigrants to vote, even though it's a direct violation of federal law. If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. But here's another one. I was over the weekend, while many of you were hanging out and goofing off and having a good time, I was doing what I always do, sitting in front of the television, monitoring, listening to all the Sunday shows, watching them, and then I was watching this thing, South by Southwest. It's supposed to be, I think, a film festival in Austin, Texas. Well, CNN had on 3 of the big presidential candidates. Let's see, the young lady, the representative from Hawaii, the youngest person if ever elected, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who's married to a man who's an Afghan war veteran. It was interesting when Jake Tapper referred to the guy's husband, and there's 2 males. And then another man who's a former representative, I believe, out of Maryland. And when we had the millennial on, the young man, who was talking about people just getting paid to do nothing, I guess there's a program in Stockton, California, where they're giving you just enough money to get by. So everybody in this place, how it would work, you'd get a stipend of $400 because we're going to be all replaced by the machines. Now, I can't wait for later on in this program, and you need to stick around for this one when I explain it to Dave Petzo to see if he can keep the roof on this place once he reacts to it. But yes, there's an elected official in the Democratic Party that wants to pay people to do absolutely nothing. Now, what is the cutoff? Do you bring people in, which we're doing right now, and giving them a stipend and a place to live and paying them to do absolutely nothing because they seek refugee status, they seek asylum status? And we have brainwashed a generation after generation of young people saying that socialism is good. Now, what is the byproduct of this? Well, we've had the corporate attack on the middle class again and again and again, and that's why. That is why we are succumbing to socialism. But the idea that we would pay people to do absolutely nothing. And there's a new poll out saying we should pay people and people are entitled and they think socialism is great. Where is the money going to come from? We don't have enough money right now to fund what we have. I don't know if we need to bring Dave Ramsey in or Chris Hogan and have some thing on economics or Dave Pezzo or what have you. But can you believe this? The idea of paying people in Stockton, California to do absolutely nothing. We'll get your reaction next. Join the conversation now, 580-5436. And Tom Munz is on the way. Oh, what a way to start off the Monday. Certainly waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Howdy-ho, Dave Ramsey. We're on the go. Kevin Miller in the morning, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. By the way, I was sitting here looking at the Statesman coming up with this thing. They're so happy. Retired writer, man of the world, Rocky Barker, having this exclusive. Idaho lawmakers hold first climate change hearing, and no one argued about its existence causes. Well, we'll get into that. And by the way, in California, coldest winter in a long time. In Idaho, most snow, at least in the mountains, for a very long time. So where is this global warming coming from? We'll talk a little bit about it. And are you comfortable with Idaho lawmakers getting down and saying, yeah, we love the global warming? Before that, we solve all the problems of the world. We go to London exclusively through our relationship with Fox News Radio, exclusively here in the Treasure Valley. Simon Owen joins us from London. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Kevin.
A big week. Some people are talking about this in Brexit. And, of course, what happens in Europe impacts the rest of the world. What's the details?
Yeah, and certainly a lot of people here are talking about this, at least in the news, although the Prime Minister, as she struggles to get Brexit over the line, is saying that the country wants to move on and get on with other matters. But with 2 and a bit weeks to go, it's March 29th is the date that's been set for the UK to leave the European Union. A lot of things are still up in the air. And this date of March 29th was actually set down a full 2 years ago now. And the idea was that 2 years would give both sides the time to work out how Brexit would happen, because nobody has ever actually left the EU before. And yet, perhaps predictably, with the clock now almost run down, it is still unclear how or when or, believe it or not, even if Brexit is actually going to happen. The reason it's up in the air, the Prime Minister here, Theresa May, secured a divorce deal with the EU in November, so an agreement on how the split will be carried out. But she has so far failed to get it through Parliament. She suffered a catastrophic defeat on this in January. And so this is why it's a big week, because we think she is going to try again tomorrow. And if she is defeated again, then there'll be another vote, we think, later in the week, which could look at delaying Brexit.
Indeed, of course. What's the impact it has on the European markets once the United Kingdom leaves?
Yes, and I mean, I think the concern in terms of that, of instability in that sense, is the default option, if you like, which is the option that neither side, the UK nor the EU, wants, but it is the default option, which is that if there's no divorce agreement agreed in place, then Britain leaves on March 29th either way. That's the sort of default option. And that would potentially be, well, it would be quite bumpy, because rather than having a managed transition period where, you know, there's a bit more time for rules to be sorted out, but Britain has nonetheless, Brexit has been completed, but it's a case of, you know, there's a date set at the end of 2020 to get things ironed out and sorted out. Instead of having that transition period, everything would simply be slashed overnight on March 29th. So that's trade rules, customs rules, immigration rules, security laws. You know, it's a huge seismic shift constitutionally, this, for the UK. And so neither the UK nor the EU wants that kind of bumpy departure, but at this rate, it is the path that both sides are careering towards in a couple of weeks.
Simon, from what I've heard, and I did a little research over this over the weekend, some people say that if the Brexit vote were held today, it might be a different outcome.
I mean, I don't think we know that with any great clarity, but certainly, yes, there are indications from polling that if you ask people again, then yes, there might be some buyer's remorse. Equally, there have been polls in the past, in the recent past, that have suggested there wouldn't necessarily be a huge change. You know, this was a 52% to 48% vote, so it was pretty close. It's a clear mandate, but it's a fairly narrow margin. I don't think we can know with any certainty what would happen, because if there was to be another vote, there'd be a lot of campaigning beforehand and a lot of time for people to make their minds up how they're going to go. And so it's hard to know. But, you know, a second referendum, believe it or not, is one of the options that people are talking about as a way out of this deadlock. And Downing Street admits that these talks with the EU are deadlocked. So one possible option is you go back to the people. And those who are in support of that say that, you know, a referendum with leave or remain 2.5 years ago was too black and white. There are shades of grey to this sort of thing, and it should be made more clear to the electorate. Now, those who don't like that idea say that, look, you put this to the people, and they said clearly, we want to leave.
Simon, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
Our great friend Simon Owen joining us. We go now to the local report with Tom Munz, TomMunz.com, MunzTom Twitter, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Well, if you go to the people and the people are ignorant, then the globalists win. Well, so, good morning. You were talking about, yes. I know, I got a little fired up already. You know, you were talking about immigration earlier, and then you laid it out for me, man, the whole smorgasbord, Brexit, global warming, you talked about trade. The thing that ties all this together is the thing that the average American should start paying attention to. When you have immigration, even though the voting demographic is different and it will be extremely costly to the American people, what we have to understand is the greater agenda here. And it works really quite well with things like Brexit and global warming and trade. And I know they sound like they're completely non-related, but they are related. They all have one thread of, and it's the United Nations. You know, Brexit has you know, they performed a coup. I think it was the Maastricht Treaty in '92. They ended up putting the European Union up for a vote. When the Netherlands and France voted against it, they decided that the people or the countries didn't need to vote, so they formed 28 member nations and called it the European Union. They're working towards that with the North American Union through the obliteration of the borders. And the problem is with Trump working on the wall, it's causing a little bit of a problem in the forward motion of the New World Order or the North American Union, except for his support for the USMCA. So if he's about America first and he's talking about the wall, that would look like America first. But if he's in grand support of the USMCA, what he's doing is he's doing exactly what he's doing with the economic and political unification of the North American Union, which is exactly how the European Union started. And so we need to start paying attention to this. And then you have the World Trade Organization that comes out and says, you know, we've got a vaccination crisis, and then but it's all Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is anthropogenic global warming, and they're saying that the people have to live on less. Living less is not America. And the other part of that is, the critical part at home, is that we are guaranteed a Republican form of government, both in our federal constitution and our local constitution. And if that is true, not every law that the legislature or Congress passes is lawful. It's only those that are in pursuance thereof.
Well, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the House of Representatives passing a resolution that would allow illegals to vote. It's against the Constitution.
It's against the Constitution. The states can stand against it. The problem always is, will the states do it? You know, the states are kind of scared to be able to step up because they know what's going to happen. You know, it's about them. You know, they need their federal money. I tell them, you know what? If we're states, we better stand like we're states. And if we don't, we need to eject everybody that's in the legislature and start finding people that understand the greater issue. These Liberty people are not whacked out. These Liberty people that are in there are incredibly educated. They understand the bigger picture. They're trying to explain it to an unelected and ignorant electorate. And it's very, very difficult because you lose people so early on in the explanation. So this is a much bigger issue. The United Nations needs to be continually discredited. We've talked about this for 60 years. It's the head of the snake. Actually, it's the mechanism for the head of the snake is what it is. And so when we can start talking more about that and what it means to the creation of the New World Order, then we will be able to save ourselves. But if we don't know who the enemy is, we're going to be in peril in every battle, Kevin.
Tom Munz, we appreciate you. We still haven't forgotten about your appearance coming soon.
All right, looking forward to it, man. Thanks.
Thank you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
This is not who your party is. Your party is not anti-Israel. She is. Think about this. She's not getting this anti-Israel sentiment doctrine from the Democrat Party. So if it's not rooted in the party, where is she getting it from? Think about it. Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution?
There we have it. Judge Jeanine on the Big Fox over the weekend. She's taking fire for making a similar point that Representative Omar did. Now, if you're not familiar with the case, Representative Omar from Minneapolis, Somali Muslim, I believe, or a Muslim, whichever. I hate identity politics. We'll just say liberal. She's a liberal. Made a comment, anti-Semitic comment, saying that there are more people in Congress worried about the Benjamins. It's all about the Benjamins. And people that are pro-Israel are more loyal to Israel than the United States of America. Right? So instead of condemning her, many of the young Turks of the Democratic Party defended her comments. But what Judge Jeanine is trying to make, well, if in fact you're going to make the point that people that protect Israel are not loyal to America, choosing Israel over America, then one could say the same, being the devil's advocate, about you wearing your religious dress, right? Again, it gets a little heated.
You know, John, when they talk about it, you know, she came in and she came to this country, of course, as a refugee. But
right.
it is clear, I think that this is Sharia adherent behavior. And it is somewhat disturbing if she is someone who is Sharia compliant. Do we know anything about that?
You know, I don't know that well, but I will say this. It is the politics of division. It is the sort of language that divides and makes people feel uncomfortable. And there's no place for it in Congress. There's no place for it.
No place for it in America. And by the way, what does that say about America, that you can come in, seek asylum, and all of a sudden you're elected to Congress? So now you have Judge Jeanine getting attacked for attacking Representative Omar for wearing the hijab. Again, this is not getting us anywhere, and our enemies somewhere are just sitting there laughing at us. Anyway, let's reset. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You know, if you're just tuning in, we have dubbed this show the Stop Socialism Express, and apparently Stockton, California, maybe that is in Southern California, to begin basic income welfare program in 2019. Beginning in 2019, 100 residents of Stockton, California will be receiving a basic income from the city government, which will allow you just to get money up to $500 a month just to live in Stockton. Socialism continues to creep in. And by the way, this poll is available on the Kevin Miller Show Facebook. We have young people saying they're all down with socialism. Let's get into that in a minute. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. This idea of socialism, and many people go, well, I can't believe it. If you have eroded the great middle class for years, if you have outsourced the manufacturing jobs, well, where are people going to turn? The young people, it looks like, are turning to the government, turning to the state, just like they did in the Soviet Union. We'll address it next. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, your home for Hannity. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller, in the morning. Don't forget, coming up the last week in May, right before Memorial Day weekend, we will have Miller's Mission, our mission, again, to help the Boise Rescue Mission and get them set up for the summer. Again, if you're looking for a great nonprofit tax deductible, go to boiserm.org. We certainly appreciate all their great works. And with so many people moving into the Treasure Valley, the need continues to expand. Help us be a conduit to helping our people in our community through the Boise Rescue Mission. By the way, coming up, Stockton, California, beginning a basic income program. Maybe we should take a look at that here. In addition to that, we have people saying we love socialism. Dave Petzel will be with us at 7:30, not 7 o'clock. So we will take your phone calls on a variety of issues concerning the latest about Adam Paulson, the Eagle man convicted of vehicular manslaughter. Apparently, allegedly, he was out on the loose and tried to mess with his ankle bracelet, allegedly, and now he's accused of violating his probation. This was after Mr. Paulson decided that the sentence that he got, time served, and paying restitution to the two children that were left behind because of the death of their mother that he was found guilty of, wasn't enough. So Mr. Paulson tried to appeal that. We will get into that coming up. It's all about accountability and responsibility. John Delaney, former congressman, multimillionaire from Maryland, wants to be the next president of the United States. This is what he had to say concerning socialism and capitalism. Shall we try capitalism first?
What we haven't done in the last several decades, in my opinion, is build the kind of programs we need to ensure that capitalism really serves the interest of all Americans. And that's what we have to get back to. We don't have to throw our model out the window.
Now, wait a minute. Capitalism never served and will never serve the interest of all Americans. You have the haves and the have-nots. You have the subjugators and the subjugatees, right? You don't have to be a brainchild of Adam Smith to get that. But the idea that capitalism for all? I don't know where he's going on with this.
We just have to, in many ways, recommit to our model, right, which is letting capitalism innovate.
Right. I think we've innovated enough. Take a look at Apple Computer Company. Before that, though, traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. And I'm Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News. Not one, but two stations, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, we will talk about Adam Paulson, now back in jail, accountability, responsibility, and should people get paid just to exist? One community in California says yes. My question is, are we paying for it?